might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space with the air like I don't care.
Today, I wanted to discuss how we interpret or analyze primary source documents. I'm going to be repeating that we don't summarize or paraphrase what an author is saying. Rather, we look to see what the author's purpose was in writing or creating the source. There are multiple different sources that historians will interpret or analyze. One type of source is a primary source by an eyewitness to an event. This is an example of a written primary source. It's from the Babylonian emperor Hammurabi. This is another example of a primary source, except in this case, the primary source is a graphic source. Another type of source that historians will use and study is a secondary source. Secondary sources are defined as interpretations of events based upon the evidence of a primary source. Here's an example from UCLA professor and historian Jared Diamond. So let's go back to the Hammurabi source and interpret or analyze it. I want you to keep in mind that we are interpreting, analyzing, not paraphrasing or summarizing. So we need to look at the source using a variety of tools that you saw in the opening clip. These tools are remembered through the acronym HAPP or HAPP. Never read a source first. I know, that sounds really strange. Rather, let's look to the sourcing of the document first. So, we look to the author and date. But by this, I don't mean just repeating the name and literal date. Rather, make some interpretations based upon the social status, national origins, and time period of the writing. Now let's try to remember some key issues in the context of the time period. In this case, we would remember that this is a sedentary society, an empire, and that it is ruled by a monarch or an absolute king. Then we try to make guesses at the audience. Again, don't be literal. And remember, you are making guesses based upon your historical knowledge. Most likely, Hammurabi is addressing wealthy people of his time since they were educated and could read. Wealth was based upon land ownership at that time. So, these are most likely nobles who own property. Okay, now we can read the document. The document is basically saying that Hammurabi has been given his power from the deities or gods of the period. So, using the context, we can get behind the lines and see what Hammurabi's purpose was for giving this speech or written proclamation. Most likely, he is addressing the nobility to justify his leadership, based upon an absolute divine source. So the purpose here is really national unity or political legitimacy. So a few things to recap and summarize in this tutorial. Remember, the interpretation analysis of documents is about finding out what a document does, not what it says. And remember that we can do this by using all the elements of HAPP: historical context, audience, point of view, and purpose.